Hey y'all, and welcome back to The Wannabe Author, the podcast that pulls back the curtain on the publishing world, traditional, self-publishing, and more. I'm your host, Taryn Christine, an author navigating the turns and plot twists of getting books into readers' hands. Here we get real about the wins, the rejections, and the lessons learned along the way. Whether you're chasing an agent, going self-published, or just curious how it all works, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hey y'all, and welcome back to The Wannabe Author. I'm your host, Taryn Christine. And today's episode is a truly special one. I know I say that about all of them, because they all really are special, but this is one I've been really looking forward to sharing with y'all, due to the insights shared and the perspectives. Today's guest offers a very unique perspective, because not only is she an author in her own journey, working to get an agent for the books that she's writing, but she is also an agent herself. Now, this guest started out in corporate law, worked 7 years as a lawyer in New York City, and then made her way into the literary world as an author. Her journey alone as an author was super insightful. I know I learned so much from it, and you can also see how it bleeds into her now role as also an agent. She now works as an agent at Fine Print Literary and offers so many great advices and insight into what agents are looking for, or what she particularly as an agent looks for in her authors and in the query letters. And if you know me, you know my journey into the traditional path, you know it's really important for me to highlight individuals I think share common values in communication and the importance of that author-agent relationship, and this guest really does. I think she is such a valuable asset to the literary world, and it was an honor to be able to sit with her and talk with her about it. She also not only is an author and an agent, but she is also a co-host of one of my favorite podcasts called the Prose Podcast, where they interview authors and talk about the author journey as a whole. If you haven't given it a listen, I highly encourage you all. I'll have it tagged in the show notes, but without further ado, it is my absolute honor and privilege to introduce you all to Lauren Kahn. Lauren, hi, welcome to the Wannabe Author.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Of course, I'm so excited to have you. This has been an episode I've been really looking forward to, so I'm just really excited to really get into this. But before we dive in to talk about you, your writing, and you as a literary agent, I always love to start out by asking my guests, what are you currently reading?
Oh, such a good question. I actually just started last night. It was released this week. It was a book of the month, and it hit the New York Times bestseller list. So you probably have heard of it. It's called This Story Will Save Your Life. And it's a thriller about actually two podcast hosts.
Shut up.
And and I just read the back and I was like, this is so up my alley. And I got into bed early last night and I'm about 20% in already. And I love it. I'm so excited to keep going.
Wait, I love that so much. That actually, I'm adding that to my list immediately. That sounds so good. I'm actually curious. This is like totally like kind of away from us starting talking about you, but kind of not. With reading and being a literary agent, because you're probably reading all the time. How do you balance that?
Yeah. I had a moment the other day where I was looking at my Goodreads like challenge number and I was like, this is pathetic. Because normally it's like 75 plus books. That had been kind of my minimum the last few years. And
yeah,
when I saw how low it was, I was like, what have I been doing? But no, it's because I'm reading so many manuscripts, which honestly, I love reading a published book, but for some reason lately, it's actually been even harder for me to just dive into one because there are so much like golden manuscripts just waiting for me, on Query Manager or from my clients, that I'm more excited to just dive into that and think about the potential of seeing these on a shelf one day. So I just kind of toggle between the two. I feel like I've been kind of ADD about my reading lately, where I'm just kind of all over the place. One thing that's been easier for me is maybe on the weekends, it's more pleasure reading. And then at night during the week, it's more just manuscript reading.
That makes sense. I feel like, yeah, that would be the best way to like balance it all out. But I love, I love that. And I feel like
that makes you so like that preaches to how great of a literary agent you are, is because you're like, I need to find these next. I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah, and I mean, what's funny too is I have to continue to read published books. It is truly a part of my
Oh,
job
for
because
sure.
they're comps. Like I have read a book about when I'm about to put a client on sub and I'm decided, oh, this is a comp for you. Like, and it was just kind of, just
Mm.
happened to be that way. Um, like for example, I'm putting a client on sub this week and I read a book about a month ago that I was like, this is an unbelievable comp. It was a brand new book. It's doing extremely well. It was a book club pick. And I was like, this is honestly a better comp than the ones we had. And it just came out. And so if I hadn't read that, I wouldn't have known like this is an incredible comp. It also just helps me, refine what the market's looking for. It helps me refine my own taste. I always jump to the acknowledgments section. I see what editor edited the book. I see what agent rep the book. Like it just kind of gives me an understanding of the market. And then honestly, I have my own podcast too. And when we bring these authors on, like I want to have been, reading their books, understanding their writing process. So really all I've ever wanted is books to be my whole life. And that's what I've done.
And you've done it. You've done it. That's awesome. Okay, well, this just gets me even more excited to hear just so much more about you as a literary agent. But before we get into that, I wanted to touch base on you as an author, because you also write and have your own writing journey. So I'd love for you to start out by kind of breaking down where you're currently at in your writing journey and, just what's going on.
Thank you so much. It's been, I feel like the last few years, I've just been on this climb and then had some setbacks. But it all really began truly when I was about to turn 30. I guess that was, I'm 33 now. So about 3.5 years ago, I had this like moment of like, when am I going to do this? I keep saying I'm going to write a book. When am I doing it? And I finally just buckled down. I think my whole life, I've always been writing stories, thinking about stories. I used to go for runs and just like craft stories in my head, or I would call my sister up and be like, isn't this a great book idea? But then I would just never like do anything about it, or I'd write a chapter and then just never move forward. And I think when I was hitting this like big age where I had just gotten married, we were probably going to start thinking about having kids in the next year. I just was like, you know what? I think this is the time. And we had just moved back to New York. We lived in Arizona for like a year during the pandemic. So coming back to New York, I was so inspired by the city and I just dove in and I wrote a novel about this attorney. It was actually very personal because I'm an attorney. So as an attorney moving to New York to write a book, like, I mean, it couldn't have been more personalized. And there was a grandmother character, and I was really dealing with a lot of grief from losing my grandmother. And so I just kind of poured all of that into this novel. And I worked on it on and off. I mean, because I also had like a really intense legal job. So I worked on it on and off for about 2 years, like just committed myself to the world of publishing, listen to every podcast, read every craft book, realized how in love I was with just publishing as a whole, learned about the agenting career. So I felt like I was going through this very transformative time. At the same time, yeah, I had to take some time off because I got pregnant. Then I had the baby. And so like, it just kind of was like this 2 year, very transformative process. And then when I was on mat leave with my first baby, I started querying because I was like, I'm not working. Let's just do it. I ended up signing with an agent. And we took my book out on submission. And I mean, who knows what could have happened with that book? I think everything happens for a reason. She only sent it to a few editors. So I don't know. If I had been the agent for it, I would have sent it to dozens more editors. But alas, that's just kind of the way it went. It was like a woman's fiction romance rom-com. I thought I was like the next coming of Emily Henry, as I think every rom-com writer does. But as it was on submission, I tried writing a second book in the genre, and I just really couldn't. I was really struggling. Like I was so bored. I just could not get myself to do it. And at the same time, I was having thoughts about this thriller, and I just kind of kept coming to me, and I kept pushing it away because I was like, I'm a romance writer. What am I doing? I got pregnant with my second baby. This is a theme, is like the pregnancies. I got pregnant with the second baby, and I was just like, you know what? All this time, like when my first baby's napping, at the time I was doing like my agenting internship, I was like, I kind of have like a lot of free time. Like, let me just for fun, try this thriller. And so last February, I just started kind of like free drafting and see what would happen. And I became like possessed. And I would work on this thriller every day and just like crank out like thousands of words. And I just became like addicted to this story. And so over the course of the last year, meanwhile, I had another baby, I started my agenting career. I have just been kind of ticking away. And then coming into January of this year, we finally had sleep trained. I was back to like a normal sleep schedule, and I committed to every Monday through Friday, I was going to wake up a couple hours before the kids and finish this book. And I think too, in my brain, I was like, I wrote the first book in 2 years. Let me see if I can do this one in a year. And I did it. I finished it. I'm querying, and I'm just so excited about this new journey. And like, I just feel like I have found a genre that my voice really will stand out in, I hope. Because it kind of has like the quippiness of like a rom-com, but also now we're like in a psychological thriller, and like it's like an unlikable female narrator. I'm using, again, like kind of my law background. It's about a group of law students coming back 10 years later. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. And so at the moment, I'm in the midst of querying, but I have a ton of full requests out, and I'm just very hopeful. I was telling Taryn before the call started, like, I'm hoping this weekend there's some agent that's just like reading my manuscript, and on Monday is like, I want to be your agent.
Yes. And I am manifesting that for you. Like, I see it
Thank
coming.
you.
You got this. Okay, what a journey. Already. Yeah. I didn't know you had a literary agent at one point. Like,
I did.
It's very interesting. And you know what? That's actually been a theme, I feel like, this season on the podcast, is a lot of my guests, we've talked about like you don't hear a lot of the stories where it's like, oh, I did have an agent and we went through this and now I'm back and doing this. Like, and so I've actually been able to get more stories on, which has been fun for me as somebody who has had an agent and went on sub and it didn't work out. And so to like sit and talk with authors that I'm like, oh, okay, like, wouldn't want to wish that on anyone, but I'm glad you're here.
Oh my God, the sigh of relief when I hear the stories too. I've become like obsessed with finding podcasts about authors who left their agents, or like finding, articles about it, because it is so inspiring to me. It gives me so much hope to see that you can still have a way, because I mean, that feeling of becoming agented, it's like you finally have like an identity as an author. I went from someone who wrote in the early morning hours and no one really knew, and now all of a sudden I'm an agented author, and I was like so proud. I was telling everyone, and my parents were so proud. And then to decide to leave was one of the hardest decisions like I've ever made. And I don't even know if it affected her as much as it did me, but that email I worked on, and I remember when I finally sent it, I had just read a Substack article about leaving your agent, and I just felt like it was a sign. And then when I did it, I felt excited for what was to come, but I felt really sad. Like I had like the blues where I was just like, well, who am I as a writer if I'm no longer agented? And I was seeing, there's so much comparison in this industry. We talk about it on my show all the time too, where it's just like, you see the people you were coming up with, the people who I got agented before now have like these massive book deals with big 5 publishing houses. And I'm so happy for them, but I'm also like, oh, I thought I would be further along by now.
Yeah.
And so hearing stories of like these long roads to publishing, these winding journeys, always gives me hope, because I'm just like, if I just keep going and keep doing my best, I really feel like it's going to happen. That persistence of just keep, you have to just keep writing. And one day you will have a book on a shelf. That's all I think about all the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I completely agree with like that stance. Is like, I think seeing all these stories of people dealing with it, I'm like, okay, so this is the more common, like the journey is that winding road you were saying, like the stories that we see where it's like quick success, those are less like common, and that's okay. Like, it's okay that this is taking a little bit of time and trial and error, and so thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah. Of course. And I'll just say too, I think I encourage authors who maybe their first book didn't work out to now reflect on that book because I would not have wanted that first book to be my debut in retrospect. Like my dad, he's reading my thriller and he's like, well, what are you going to, so my first book is called Dear Sloan. He's like, what are you going to do about Dear Sloan? Like, are you going to give that to the new agent? I'm like, no, that ship has sailed. I don't want that book out there. That's like my personal private book. Now it is my writing has just tenfold improved. I think that book, I've heard this from authors now and I'm going to repeat it. I think that book was vibes. It was like New York City, gal in the city, discovering herself with her friends. And it was a lot of vibes. And I remember I wasn't really plotting. Like I would go for a walk and I'd be like, oh my God, look at that cool restaurant. Throw it in the book. And I even had, I had three agent offers. So like people liked it, but like one of the offers who I didn't end up going with, she was like, she lived in London and she was like, this is going to be my travel guide around New York, which is so nice. But now I'm like, I don't know if that's my debut, like a travel guide, like I need more of like the pacing and the plot and all the things that make a great debut. Cause I want it to stand out. I want to build a career on this. And like I said, I tried writing another romance and it didn't work. So I think, and now all I have are ideas for thrillers. Like every day I'm thinking of something twisted. So
I love that. I'm so excited to see where your writing journey goes. And excited to have you on my shelves one day.
Thank you.
I know you kind of broke into this question, but I'd love for you to kind of like paint a picture. I know you talked about writing. You've been doing it like in the early mornings, getting it done in bed and stuff. But if you want to talk more about what it looks like when you are planning out a book, outlining, are you pantser? And is there any certain, what is it? Sorry, I have a lot of brain or pregnancy brain.
Pregnancy brain.
I always have to stop and be like, I don't know my words. Any content you're ingesting as you're writing your books?
Great question. I am such a pantser. I think as I do more thrillers, I'm going to have to become a little more plotty because it was very hard to go back and like plant the seeds that I needed to plant. And like, I didn't know how this book was ending, until I finished it. But at the same time, like it made it more exciting because I was like, I don't know who did it. Like, I truly don't know who did it. And I think as a reader, I've now had a few people read it who were like, oh, I had no idea that twist was coming. I think maybe it's because I didn't know it was coming. And now I have kind of like peppered some more clues, but I think the twist will be surprising because the writer also was kind of like along for the ride and was like, I don't know where this is going. But it does make it more challenging. Like as I was trying to finish it, I was like, God, there are so many threads. Something about this writing experience, though, it was kind of magical where I would just one day create a character and I was like, I don't understand his purpose. I don't know why he's here. And then now I get it. And like I would have like a light bulb moment on a walk around and be like, oh, that's why he exists. And he did XYZ. And like, so things were coming together in the end. I don't know how like these things were clicking. I think that may have been a one-off experience. I don't know if that's going to happen every time where it's just like, oh, that makes sense. So yeah, but I will say very much a pantser. I think because I'm such a perfectionist when it comes to editing, like before I sent this book out, I was just like in the weeds, like reading every single line. Like I had to do a Kindle read. I had to do an iPad read. I had to do a paper read. Like I just get so in the weeds that if I think I read back as I was writing, I think I would be paralyzed. And so I did a very quick, just like, I got 50,000 words, just quick draft, kind of like the NaNoWriMo style, RIP. I don't even know if people do that anymore, but I just needed to get it out of my system. And then kind of just keep going from there and like pulling on threads. Originally to this book, I've rewritten this book so many times. It was originally first person, now it's third person. Originally it was dual timeline, now it's a single timeline. So it's just like, I had to go through a few iterations to figure out what worked. But yeah, no outlining, although I might try some outlining in the future. We'll see. I say that now.
Well, as someone who also definitely pantses, I related with you on so many different things, but I can see how hard that would be to build a thriller pantsing, but also how entertaining that would be.
So entertaining. Yeah, I also think too, I read so much. And so,
Yeah.
and I've heard this from other authors. I know I'm not alone in this, where when I'm writing, I just can feel when things need to happen. Like I'm not doing a save the cat beat sheet because I know when X needs to happen, or we're at the 50% mark and the pacing needs to increase. Like a lot of my editing in the last couple of months has been reading back a scene and being like, wow, that was boring. Like I literally nothing happened, and just making something crazy, like bringing in a character, or like the character in my book is pregnant. So like making her have a Braxton Hicks contraction, like something where you were just like, oh, wait, what's going on? So I'm hopeful that this is going to be a book that stands out, just because I do feel like I have a lot of tension. I have a lot of secrets, and then I have a lot of just like pacing, like quick pacing, like things are moving, things are happening. Very like I'm very cinematic when I write. So like I have a scene where, spoiler alert, if this book ever sees the light of day, but the groom is it takes place at a wedding over a weekend, and the groom is waiting for the bride to come down the aisle, and instead a detective comes down and arrests him. So like very just like big cinematic moments where I'm like, I want this on my movie screen.
I love that. I love that. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm very excited for this book. Okay. Now, my last question regarding your writing process is, what part of the writing process feels most natural to you, and what part is like, okay, I'm going to lose it?
Oh man, I will say I love drafting to a point. Like I love just letting an idea simmer. Like I have had this new idea simmering for several months, and like I think about it when I'm driving, I think about it when I'm walking, and I've been wanting to dive into it, but I was like, you need to finish this thriller you're working on first. So I love that kind of simmering. I love that like initial drafting. I will say though, at like the 30% mark, I start to just like, or no, sorry, not 30%, 30,000 word mark. I just start to lose steam, where I'm like, what is happening? Like, it's like that icky middle where you're just like, this is awful. Like, I don't even know what to do. So I don't like that part. And then I do love to edit. Like I am just an editor at heart. Like I think that's why I love being an editorial agent so much. Like I really love getting into the weeds, and I love line level editing. Like I just love that. I don't know if I'm as good as like on a developmental standpoint, although I'm improving, but I will say like on a line level, like that's when I feel like I shine.
I love that. I feel like I very much relate to you on the writing process and stuff. Like you say things, I'm like, yes.
Oh, good.
We are the same. I love it.
So glad.
Okay. Well, now thank you so much for sharing so much about your author journey. I know I've found a lot of insight from it. But I'd love to dive more into you as a literary agent. So I'm very excited to kind of hear how all your worlds combine with being like into books, but also an attorney. So I'd love for you to tell us what made you decide to become a literary agent, and what about the industry drew you in?
It's a great question. Really, I will say this 30th year that I've talked about, it was so transformative for me, because I started writing this novel. I really dove into all these publishing podcasts, and I started learning about what an agent did. And I had never heard of this career before. I knew so little about the publishing industry, despite being such an avid reader. And so I started hearing from agents on podcasts. I became obsessed with the shit no one tells you about writing. Cece Lyra was an attorney, and she even did an episode where she talked about her journey. I'll never forget listening to it. I was like running in Central Park and hearing about her journey, and knowing I had to go back and work on like an acquisition, and just being like, oh, I want to do that. Like, this sounds so amazing. And I remember I took a workshop that Carly Waters put together about becoming an agent. And my main takeaway was that I had to go be an assistant or an intern. And I lived in Manhattan. I worked in big law. So for one, I just couldn't afford it. Even if I wanted to like leave my job, I could not. And two, I couldn't, anyone who knows big law, like you are just working around the clock. You're pulling all-nighters. Like, I don't even know how I fit in writing this novel. But to then also do an internship, it just was impossible. And so I kind of let that dream go. I remember actually even going to lunch with my husband and telling him, yeah, I did this workshop, I'm becoming an agent, and it's just never going to happen for me. Like, I just do not see a world where it happens. So I let that go. I focused on writing and just lawyering. And when we had our first baby, we ended up moving to Florida. And so I had to leave my job. the cost of living was much less. And suddenly I had this time where I was trying to figure out my next move, and I started looking at like doing a remote legal job. But then at the same time, I was like, let me also just look into some internships and like see what that would look like. You know, we only have one baby at the time. Like I could do stuff during nap time. And lo and behold, I became obsessed, like as I do. Like I threw myself into this. I created a spreadsheet of like 100 agencies. I was just like, I'm going to find an internship. This is going to be like the career for me. It just, every time I would hear what an agent does, I was like, this is me. Everything, like the negotiation from a legal standpoint, the attention to detail, the writing, the editing, the reading, the client relations, like it really just took the best of me as a writer and the best of me as a lawyer and like put them together. And so I got an incredible internship at Triada with Brent Taylor, who I'm obsessed with. Like he is such an incredible agent. It was amazing. I learned so much. And then I just threw myself into finding a job. And I had heard like you maybe have to do a couple internships, but I was like, no, no, no. Like I'm an attorney. I am a novelist. Like I'm going to make this happen. And I did the same thing, made a spreadsheet of 100 agencies, cold emailed all of them, ended up with a bunch of interviews. You know, because that's the other thing is like, I probably could do a whole episode on how to become a literary agent. No one like teaches you. Like this is not online. I just kind of started throwing stuff out there and seeing what worked. And there are no like job postings really, like you just kind of have to cold email. And so I ended up with a few interviews, but it was really important to me that I went somewhere that I was going to stay, that had an amazing reputation. And I'll never forget, so I emailed Fine Print and Peter was like, this is the CEO, was like, you know, we're not hiring right now. And that's what a lot of agencies said is like, you know, we have your resume on file, but we're not hiring. And I was like, okay, totally fine. A few weeks later, I'll never forget, I woke up on like a Sunday morning and he had emailed me late Saturday night and it was like, let's just have a talk. Let's have a call. And I was like, okay, awesome. He's like, I don't want to get your hopes up, but let's have a call. And so something stuck out from my email. And so we had a call and it was excellent. Like it went so well. And he was like, well, I really want you to meet my VP, Lauren Beaker, which very full circle moment, but her client Jenna, who's also a literary agent, was kind of like a mentor to me a little bit. Like we had a couple calls. She really guided me through how to become an agent. Her Substack series, How to Become a Literary Agent, it's like a 3-part series I followed to a T to like get this position. And so the VP of Fine Print, her client is Jenna. And so I was just like, wait, this is like very full circle, but now I'm going to meet with Lauren. And then it happened that I was going to New York. And so Lauren and I actually met in person for like this kind of like final interview. And the other kind of plot twist is I was extremely pregnant. I was like 8 months pregnant. Had not told anybody during this whole internship and interview process because I was like, I just don't want this to affect me because I know I can still do it. And so I show up to happy hour to meet Lauren and I was so pregnant. And she to her credit, like she didn't say it. She was just like, oh my gosh, we didn't have to do happy hour. And I was like, nope, it's fine. And then we just went forward. Like I was there for a job interview and I was like, that's awesome that you didn't, you know, ask me like, well, how are you going to do this? Because I did have this one interviewer who was like, how are you going to balance this with childcare? And I was just like, like, why are you, that's for me to figure out. So anyways, we like had the best time. She offered me a job and yeah, that was in, I think that was like Memorial Day weekend of last year. And then I technically like started in June, but I was due July 5th. And so for all of June, I was kind of just shadowing Lauren, helping her with some of her clients. And then I had my baby July 5th and opened to queries 2 weeks later and the rest was history. And I'm just so happy I went for it. I think there was a reason I connected with it. And I'm so glad I never forgot that.
Oh, I love that. If anything, your author journey and your literary journey, like, just preaches to how resilient and, like, just powerful you are as, like, someone who just wants what they want and will do whatever they can to get it. I love it.
Yeah.
It's very impressive.
Thank you. And I think that's what's kept me going. And that's what my husband always reminds me of too. Like if I want something, I will knock down every door until I get it. Like the one story that kind of kept me going during all this is basically at the beginning of my senior year of college, I decided that I was going to intern at Rolling Stone. I just was like, this is what I'm doing. And I was told that they had an opening and it was for Bruce Springsteen's daughter and who I went to school with. And I was like, and it wasn't really for her. It was kind of like the idea of someone like that. That's who the opening is for. But, and I was like, well, no, I'm not going to accept that. And so for all of senior year, just like stayed on it. And I got the internship and I did an internship at Rolling Stone. But yeah, I never take no. And I say that when I'm interviewing with, when clients rather are interviewing me, I say like, I will sell your book or I will sell a book, if not this one for you, because I will knock down every door. Like I will not give up. I'm someone who just, when I want something, like when I was finishing this book over the last few weeks, I became like possessed by it and like wasn't sleeping and was waking up at 4 a.m. hopping out of bed. Like I'm very driven by stuff that I want. And actually, as I was talking, I realized I have this like notebook. I've never talked about this before, but it says future best-selling author. I got it at the Strand when I was writing my novel. And the only thing in here are notes from Carly Waters' literary agent webinar. And that's literally the only thing in this notebook. I never put anything else in here. And I remember I took the notes and I was like, everything about this is like the dream job, but I won't be able to do it. But I did.
I love that so much. I love just the whole, like, it won't happen. And then you just make it happen. Like, yeah. Love it. And I love the insight of seeing the startup of becoming a literary agent. Now that I'm, you know what, it's probably because I haven't gone looking into how to become a literary agent too. But I'm like, you're right. There isn't a whole lot of like information that I've seen to become a literary agent. So that is very interesting. It's cool to get like that insight and how much work. And it also preaches to kind of the type of literary agent you want is like someone who will, like you were saying, like will go and knock down all the doors and, you know, not stop. So I think that just really preaches to the kind of person you are to work with. And authors, take note of Lauren's wish list. Like, you gotta get in her query box.
Thank you. Well, I mean, honestly, it's so crazy. Like, people always ask me about being an author. They ask me about being an agent, and I'm like, they're connected. They are so interwoven because as I was, you know, preaching that I will do anything to sell your book to these authors, I was thinking, well, is my agent doing anything to sell my book? Not really. Like, I feel like she kind of gave up on it. And so then I was like, okay, if I'm, you know, selling myself and talking about this ideal agent to these authors, I was like, well, I need to do that for me. And that was that ultimately led to like a soul searching around leaving. And I just knew if I was doing this, there was another agent. And I know of plenty of agents because I've talked to a lot of them who are doing this. And I was like, I want one of those. And so, yeah, sometimes you just have to bet on yourself.
No, yeah, absolutely. Love. Okay. And then I'd love to know what genres or types of stories excite you the most right now.
I will always be a sucker for romance, rom-coms, but I love thrillers. Like, I feel like whenever I'm in a reading rut, if I just pick up a psychological thriller, I'm back. Like, it always gets me back. So I think those are always going to be my bread and butter. But then, you know, I'm frequently surprised. So like, for example, The Wedding People last year was a book I think about all the time. Margot's Got Money Troubles, think about all the time. And those are kind of just more like general fiction, like they're upmarket fiction. They're not really a genre. And I love those books. Like I tore through them. So I read everything. I will say I'm more, you know, I'm open to fantasy and I do have a fantasy author, but I feel like in general, I'm more of a contemporary reader. Like those are always going to be the ones that really pull me in. I love a great setting too. I interviewed on our podcast, Emily Everett the other day. She's Reese's book club pick for all that life can afford. And that book I read when I was pregnant, and I just was like traveling with her. I'm like in London, I'm in Lisbon. And like, so I love books that can take me places. Like I love a really atmospheric setting. In thrillers, like I love, like Stacey Willingham's novels are all like very atmospheric, set in the South. I love a good literary thriller. I have an amazing literary thriller client duo. They're incredible. And I'm like dying for their book to sell because their book is so amazing. So yeah, honestly, like if it's well written, like and it hooks me, I'm probably going to want to read it.
Love. Everybody take notes. Take notes. Okay. Now I'd love to dive into I've been really lucky to talk to a couple literary agents here on the podcast.
Amazing.
And this has always been my favorite kind of question because we hear so much of the author's point of view, of the query process and like how hard it is and stuff. But I'd love to kind of dive into your point of view of the query process. What is your least favorite part of the query process as a literary agent?
My least favorite part is the heartbreak when someone doesn't sign with me. It sucks. It really does suck. And I know it's been just interesting because I've experienced it now from both sides. And I know the craziness of that 2-week, period where you're getting offers, you're getting rejections, you're checking your email all the time. I know that craziness as an author, but as an agent, you're just like holding your breath. Like I feel like I'm constantly just like waiting to hear from that author. I have had authors in the past come back to me early. They're just like, I was so excited to work with you. I just want to sign now. But when you don't hear from the author like on the deadline to like late in the day, I'm always like, yeah, they didn't go with me. But I will say every time this happens, it is also a good feeling in a way because I'm like, okay, I have taste. I have really good taste because the amount of books, Taryn, that I have set off like a bidding bonanza. I'm not even kidding. Like it is insane what I have done. And I feel like I hold this power. The very first book I ever offered on is now she's my co-host, Tally. So she was the very first book I offered on. Yep. Little secret. It's kind of amazing that that's how we met. She didn't end up signing with me, but thank God, because I don't think we would be podcasting together. Mm-hmm. But I will never forget. She was my first offer. I was literally reading her book with like a 3-week-old on my chest. And I was like sweating the whole offer because I was like, this is my first time doing this. I had like copious notes. I really connected with her though. I was like, I really like her, so I hope she signs with me. She ended up not, but she got like 4 or 5 offers total. And so I remember feeling like, and they were like big agents. So I remember being like, okay, I've got taste. This is great. And it was like that kind of confidence boost I needed. There's another author who I've now become like friends with who, this is insane, but I offered and then she went on to get a total of 14 offers and then sold like in every country at like a massive auction. And I just remember being like, yeah, like that I found her. I'm sure she would have gotten offers like immediately anyways, but just being that first one is kind of like, okay, like I've got taste.
I love it. I love it so much. And you know what? As you continued to explain your experience with your co-host, I was like, wait, I do remember this from the first episode because I was like, what a fun, like, I don't know, connection to have with each other and still like be talking and now creating this podcast that's just absolutely amazing. How fun.
Insane.
How cool.
Insane.
It shows a lot to like the type of connections you're making though. Like it's not just a query letter, like you're actually looking to make connections.
Yeah, and that's this girl, shout out Kate, who got the 14 offers. She's now become a very close writing friend. She actually lives in London, but grew up like 45 minutes from me, that was another crazy thing too, where we literally met in the query inbox and now we've become friends and we're like, wait, we grew up near each other, but you're in London? Like, this is nuts. So yeah, she always says too, like, oh my gosh, I met my friend in the query inbox. But it's the same thing with Tally. Like, we met in the query inbox. Like, who would have thought?
No, seriously. Like, I haven't had that yet. So I'm like, that's fun. Like, I need to start making friends with all these queries I'm putting out.
Yeah.
Like, wait, so if you don't want me, it's okay, but we should be friends. I would love that.
Well, it's funny because you have to kind of get over this like awkward stage of them basically rejecting you. And I remember the first time, same with Kate, with Tally, it's happened with a couple other people where we were just kind of like, can we be friends now? And I remember Kate, like she was dying to tell me about like her querying journey. And we even started FaceTiming like when she was starting her submission process. And she was like, can we be friends? And I was like, yes. Oh, thank God. Can we just like, walls are down. Like, let's just be friends. We're no longer agent and author. Let's just be friends.
Love that. I love it so much. Okay. Now, what about a query letter stands out to you?
I will say, so I have received over 7,000 queries since I opened last July. And it sounds crazy. And you hear that and you're like, oh, how am I going to stand out? I will say a large percentage of those are not written correctly. Like people are just typing a summary and sending it into the void. So if you can correctly write a query letter, and like there are articles about this, there are podcasts about this, there are courses on it, but I don't even think you need to take a course. Like there are literally Writer's Digest articles that are like, this is how you do it. Jane Friedman has an incredible site on writing. I know the shit no one tells you about writing has like a weekly segment where they teach you how to write a query letter. And I know you can learn because this is how I learned. If you just write it correctly, you're automatically one I'm going to take a pause and read more thoroughly. I will say comps at the top, I like to see because that will draw my eye. Starting off with your hook will draw my eye. Getting to the meat of like, just like, what is this story about? I think the best, way to learn how to do that too is just go to a bookstore and start pulling books off the shelf and read the back summary. That's what I want to see. Like when I open my query inbox, it's kind of like me going to a bookstore and deciding, okay, what am I going to read tonight? What am I going to pull? If it is this like rambly, we're not getting to why this matters, we're not getting to the hook, it's just like vibes or, this person did this. It's just, it's not going to hook me. It's not going to make me want to read more. And then if you can get past the, that query letter, and then I get into the opening pages and then I like what I see there too. And I can tell you can write, like there's potential here, then I'm most likely going to request your manuscript. So there are ways to stand out beyond just, being something I'm interested in seeing. I mean, that's the other thing too, is people send me stuff that's not in the genres I'm requesting. Like just, stick to like the rules of what the literary agent is looking for, find their manuscript wish list. I think there are simple things that querying authors can do to kind of temper those rejections versus just the amount of queries I get when I update genres, because all of a sudden Query Tracker like has put that on the top of their newsletter. Lauren Kahn has updated genres. So now someone got an email that's like, oh, Lauren Kahn updated genres. I'm just going to send her my book and not read anything about her. I always like regret updating genres or, closing and opening, because I just get this flood of queries of people who see my name and are like, oh, fresh blood.
A new name. No, that's very, very insightful, and I think it's such a good reminder for a lot of authors. Like there are a lot of resources to make the query letter something worth reading. And like you were saying, I've heard so many times of literary agents saying it's like, I'm book shopping, I need to be drawn and to pick up this book. So yeah, I love that you touched on that.
Yeah. One other tip that I've been thinking about is, so in Query Tracker, which is what I use, Query Manager, Query Tracker, I can see when you have already submitted your book to me. So, which is fine. Like I'm excited to see work by an author who's already submitted to me before, especially at this point. I've been open since last July. You can feasibly, you could have written something new by now. When I feel a red flag is when you submitted to me like a month ago and all of a sudden you have this brand new book. That doesn't tell me that you've really taken a step back and gone through, well, why didn't this book make it through the querying trenches? What can I do differently? What craft can I learn? I think it's a similar story. If you ever get an R&R, don't send it back right away. Like you might feel like, all right, made the edits, boom, I want to get to this agent. It, to me, and I've talked about this with other agents, is a red flag because it tells me, okay, you haven't had beta readers. You haven't like really sat with this commentary. You haven't really pulled apart your manuscript. And so I think I see authors who just will send me a book. And they're just hoping, okay, this is going to be the one. But it's not a good look to me when I see that I have not been agenting that long. And there are people who have already sent me like 4 books. And I'm just like, you need to take a step back and learn how to write a book and then send me your book. There are things you could be doing. So that's just another tip.
Yeah. Well, and just listening to this, it kind of sounds like a lot of new authors are treating the trenches kind of like a lottery ticket. Like if I put in enough, I'll get picked. And it really just comes down to the craft and like really building something that you're proud of and have put so much thought and energy into. Those are what you're looking for.
Yeah. And the reason why is because I have over 7,000 queries and I
Yeah.
can't rep all 7,000. At the moment, I have 14 clients on my list and I'm busy. And I can only imagine
That
that
is.
people who are, have, double that. We're busy. We're reading client manuscripts. That they're the priority. The client is always going to be the priority. So then
Mhm.
we're trying to wade through the querying inbox too. And it's like, we can't rep everyone. So we're going to, find the things that stand out to us, the things that we're genuinely excited to work on. I know there are agents that just sign and send stuff out, but when I sign something, like we're going to work on it, at least a few
Mhm.
months of editing. I signed the last novel I signed, I think was back in January. We're going on a sub this week, but for the last 2 months, we've been editing. Like we've been getting this ready for sub because I want this to be the best work that it could possibly be. And so I'm going to give you my thoughts and, there are always suggestions. You don't have to take everything, but I think we should work together to like really craft it. So when we send it out, it's ready. And so for me, that's free labor. Like
Yeah.
I don't get a salary to edit this. So I'm not just going to be signing every single thing that comes in my inbox because I have to want to work on it for free.
Mhm. No, that's such a good point and very, very important point for a lot of authors to remember. Okay. I feel like this is kind of touching this topic of the author agent relationship. Because like, I mean, you're putting so much work into it. You want your author to really think about what they're writing and put as much effort into it. So I'd love for you to dive into um, more of what you expect in an author agent relationship. Like, what do you look for in a client beyond their writing?
Great question. And I think this is where you can stand out in a query letter too, is I want to sign people who want to do this for their career. I'm really not looking for someone who's just this is a one-off and they want to sell it and now they're gonna just like move on and hope to collect royalties. I'm looking for career authors who we're gonna grow together, especially, that's where I am in my career. I'm a growing agent. And so I'm hoping that when we sign, now we're on this journey together and we're going to sell a lot of books and we're going to write a lot of books together. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for people who are being intentional, are taking classes or joining writing groups, are, um, they're listening to podcasts, they're reading books on craft, like they're genuinely entrenching themselves in this world. And I don't want people to think, oh, I need to go sign up for all these classes. I can't afford that. No, like there are free ways to do it. Just showing that you're a big fan of this one free podcast about publishing, or, you've picked up this book on craft and you're committing to it, or even just, making a social media account where you're showing the books you're reading, you're, being a good literary citizen. There are ways to show that like you're serious about this world. So I look for that. And I just look for someone too who I just get along with. And I think we're going to be a great team because at the end of the day, I see this as a partnership. I always tell clients when I'm signing them, like, I'm signing you, yes, for this book, but for your potential. Because, there's always a chance this isn't going to sell. It is a lottery in a way, this industry. Editors can only acquire so many books a year. And so while I'm trying to sell this book, like, I'm hopeful that you're going to write another one and then we'll get to try to sell that one together. And so I see the potential in your writing and I want more from you. And when I sign them, I say like, this is a hard part. Like getting an agent is probably one of the hardest parts. Now you just get to write and I get to do all the business. So you write, you just bring me more books and we'll go out on stuff together. And so, yeah, I'm looking for partners, looking for someone who I get along well with and that is just like excited. And I think when I've signed, I think what's been happening is I'll get a query in my inbox that I'm very excited by. I will request that manuscript very quickly and I will read it very quickly and we'll sign very quickly and then go on sub very quickly. And so it's like this kind of like we all of this feel this momentum. It's very exciting. I'm excited for them. They're excited for me. And I feel that. I don't know. There's like this synergy that I've felt with all my clients that it just is, it's really, it stimulates me as an agent. I think it stimulates them as an author. And yeah, I think, this is industry of waiting. It is so much waiting. But I think a lot of the seeds that I've planted since I opened to queries last July are finally starting to come to fruition. And so, yeah, I think 2026, I say this all the time, but I think this is the year that some stuff's going to pop off. I'm excited.
No, I see it. I see it, Lauren. I'm very excited for you.
Thank you.
Okay. What should an author expect in terms of communication with their agent? Not just in check-ins, but in the submission process, edits, and I guess this is more in terms of like, if someone were to sign with you, what should they expect?
I am huge on communication. That is the one thing I always stress in my offer calls. I think that's where I want to be set apart because I have heard so many horror stories of agents who do not email their clients back. I hear it constantly. Oh my gosh, it is. And as someone who came from client services at a law firm where if I didn't respond, confirm receipt within a few hours, I got yelled at. Like that is just, it blows my mind. Because at the end of the day, this is a client service job. Yes, maybe the agent has the power during the querying process, but once you sign with me, you're my client. Like I am working for you, and to not respond to your email, it doesn't compute in my brain. And so I really try to be extremely prompt. Even if it's just like, I got this and I will respond in the next few days because it's like something I need to like digest. Especially when it comes to editing, like sometimes I'll get these long emails and I'm like, I need to digest this over the course of a few days. But I always try to confirm receipt. I always try to just like let them know like I'm here. I'm talking to my clients over email. We're talking on DM. We're talking on WhatsApp or Discord. Like I just try to be there for them because it's such a lonely process, especially when you go on sub, especially when you're drafting something new. It is so isolating. And I try to be like that partner for them where they can feel like they can reach out to me anytime. And I've been in the author who had an agent not responding to them, and it is terrible. It is the worst feeling after you get on an agent call and they're just like, oh, they're singing your praises. Your book's going to become a Netflix movie. I mean, oh man, you go from this high to now you're not responding to me and you're just like, what?
Did we live the same experience, Lauren?
Maybe we did. We're gonna have to talk offline.
We definitely do.
Yeah. But like I feel like since I'm newer, if I'm up against another like big time agent, it's hard sometimes for an author to decide like which way they want to go, especially because I don't have any sales yet, although I have a contract for a book right now. But it's hard. Like, and I get it because I was in that position where I was trying to decide, okay, who do I go with? Oh, I'm going to go with the bigger agent. And so I just try to say like, with me, at least you're going to get responses. Like, because I don't know if that big time agent's going to respond to you when she has these massive Sarah J. Maas type clients on her list. And I get that. Like, I can only imagine how crazed that person's email inbox is. But at the same time, maybe don't open for queries then. Like, don't say I'm going to, bring on this new author if you don't have the time for them. And so I just try to say, like, at least with me, you're always going to get an email, and I will never have a client leave because they weren't getting emails from me or like felt like they were being ghosted. And actually the the Substack that finally convinced me to make a change in my author career was a Substack that Jenna, who I'm like obsessed with her Substack, she wrote about being ghosted by an agent and how like that is just a no-no. Like that is like, what? That is just absolutely something you do not do. And I remember reading that and being like, I'm making a change for myself. So yeah, communication, you will never have to worry about with me.
Love. And I think that communication is just so valuable. Because like you were saying, it's a team. You're now teammates working towards mutual success. Exactly. And you're not seeing each other, like you're working together, but you're not seeing each other in the office every day. So it's so important to touch base and to make that connection like, hey, we're still together in this. Like, you're not alone. I see you. Like, I think that's so important. So it's great to have agents like yourself on the podcast to talk about the importance of that, because I think it makes authors really question, like, as they are going through the process, like, you're right, the agent holds the power a lot in the querying trenches phase, but like at that point, like, you're working together, and so you need to make sure you're teaming up with somebody who is going to communicate that with you and, you know, make sure you don't feel like you are alone in it. So I
No,
love that you
and
touched on that.
yeah, and I just don't want my clients ever to feel like they're scared to email me, because I've heard that so
Mm.
many times too. And I was that person where I would spend like 2 months drafting a 1 paragraph email and then have my husband read it for me and then send it and never get a reply. And I was like, wow, well, that was a waste of time. And I just want my clients to feel like they can just email me, and it's not
Mhm.
scary because it's Lauren and you're comfortable with Lauren. Sorry, I sounded so weird talking in the
No.
third person.
No, I
Lauren
got it.
is
I was there
a
with you.
great agent. But yeah, so I just don't want you to ever feel afraid to reach out to me.
No, I love that. Okay, now we're kind of wrapping up with the last few questions.
Okay.
So this question I started back in my second season, and I've just really loved everybody's responses because they're so different. So, my question is there a conversation, comment, or piece of feedback, good or brutal, that has changed how you see yourself as a writer or even as a literary agent?
Ooh, that is good. Let me take a beat. Let's see. Okay, well, one of my favorite literary agent stories so far that I think really it just changed how I like saw myself. I had a client who yeah, she's one of my clients. She's amazing, and she was one that I got an email from her, and she's like, I already have an offer. Do you want to look at my, it was a nonfiction client, do you want to look at my proposal? So, I had this at this point so many queries that I had somehow missed hers. I pull it up, I start reading it, I'm like, oh my God, this is so up my alley that I can't even like wrap my head around. Like, I need this. And this is what usually happens when I want to sign someone. Like, I just feel it in my bones. I'm like, I need this. And so I set up a call with her, and she let me know. She's like, I have offers from like, the 3-letter agencies, like the CAAs, WMEs. Like, it was like I was going up against some like heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Which when you hear that, like, I hate to say it, but there is something in your gut where you're just kind of like, I don't really want to get my hopes up here, because like this person has some, big offer, which I understand as an author. Like, that's so exciting. Like, it's hard. That's so hard to say no to that. And so she told me that, and I was like, okay. But we still had like a 1 hour, just like incredible call. Like, we were just vibing. Like, I like loved this girl so much. I was like, I feel this. Like, I feel this energy here. And so a week or two went by, and she called me on a Friday and to tell me that she was signing with me, and we were both like crying, and she was like, look, I see you, and I think you're going to be famous. I think you're going to be this huge agent, and I see that your rocket is about to take off, and I want to be on that rocket. And it just meant so much to me. And like, I just felt like I was so seen, because it is hard to be a new agent. Like, you have no sales, and it's like not for lack of trying. It's just, you just started. So it's like someone always has to start somewhere. And like, I've had,
Mhm.
potential clients who would like look at my publisher's marketplace, and they'll be like, why don't you have any sales? And I'm like, because I just started.
Like, give me a
And so you
second.
have to, yeah. So these early clients, like, I'm just so grateful for them, because I feel like they really have had to have faith in me, and they have to see something in me. And I know it's going to pay off. And so this client actually is the first deal that I've made. And when I called her, she was crying. It was so excited, and like just was reiterating all those things that I had said, or she had said in that call, basically being like, I see where you're going, and I'm so pumped to be on this like journey with you. And it just, it meant so much to me, and I'm just so excited. Like, I feel like she's right. Like, we're in this kind of like early stages where things are trickling, and then stuff's going to start happening, and I'm very excited to be on that journey.
No, I love that. Thank you for sharing that, for
Of
one.
course.
And like, absolutely piggybacking off of what she said, like, you can tell, like, you're killing it. You're making things happen. Like, love it. That is a very special story, actually.
Thanks.
Okay, outside of writing and agent, I can't ever say that word right, but you know what I'm saying. Outside of being a literary agent and an author, what's something about you that most people don't know?
Ooh, that's such a good question. Uh, it's so funny. It's This is like so hard for me to answer because I feel like I'm showing up like myself more than ever. Back in my legal job, I was not like I was just hiding away so much of myself.
Hmm.
And now I feel like I'm just 100% myself all the time. I'm, talking about being a mom. I love movies. I love TV. Like I'm no longer like shy about like loving television. Like I used to think that made it seem like, oh, she's not working because she's watching TV. I think all these things, they build my craft. Like I'm using movies and TV shows for comps. I'm being inspired by television writers in my own writing. So I feel like all of this has just built on itself. Um, Oh, I don't know. God, what don't people know about me? I feel like I'm so open these days. I guess I could say that, yeah, I mean, I had a very intense legal job. Like I was so not doing what I'm doing now.
Hmm.
And I was constantly searching for a job that made me just feel like I was showing up to as myself, that I felt passionate about, and I was bouncing around a lot. Like I had a lot of different legal jobs because I just felt like I was trying to find that thing, and then it turns
Yeah.
out like I wasn't really looking in the right direction. But what's crazy is if you go back through my life, like you can see the seeds. Like I told that story about getting an internship at Rolling Stone. Like I there was a a period of my life where I thought I was going to be a journalist, and then I went to law school instead. When I was in law school, I was a legal writing TA, and I was like obsessed with legal writing, and that was like one of the things that I was involved in the most. I was managing editor of like our law school journal. Like I always had like these little like seeds. I was um a leader in I was like president of the Art Law Society and president of the Entertainment Law Society. So like I was constantly like feeling these little pieces, and then now they've kind of all come together. But yeah, I would just say like if there is a part of you that feels like you're not on the right path, just keep trying new things. Like I guess I was never afraid to try. Like I actually had a podcast during the pandemic that I just couldn't didn't have time for it anymore once I started this last legal job that I did. And that was one of those moments where I felt like, oh, I love this. Wait, I'm like so happy doing this. And I couldn't continue it. And I've always thought back to it. And then Tolly came into my life, and now I'm doing it again. But that was just me trying. I was just like, I'm going to try this. Like, I'm just, I have a lot more free time because I'm not going out during the pandemic. I'm just going to do this. And I loved it. And so you just keep trying, like putting things out there, trying new genres. I mean, I am shocked that I started writing a thriller, and now I'm like obsessed and I can't wait to write more. And so just keep trying is like my advice.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Now, this is more of just a fun one, but what trope do you secretly or loudly love, whether reading or writing, and why that one?
Okay. My favorite trope, I think, is the unreliable narrator. Without fail, it never lets me down. And so my book is an unreliable narrator. I also love an unlikable female character. This is my favorite hat. And I have that behind me because I wrote a very unlikable female character. But yeah, the unreliable narrator, it always gets me. I don't know how, like, even though like I should just know, like, it's most likely going to be unreliable, I always am surprised. um, so I think honestly, I have to, yeah, give it up for that one. I think that's my favorite.
I love it. Oh, sorry, got a pinched nerve in my brain.
Oh,
Okay. Um, okay, and then to close out, what's next for you? Can you give us any vague, mysterious teasers, or if you have any events coming up? I have seen a couple
oh,
things
yeah.
that you might have coming up, but or shout out your clients, whatever.
Yeah, okay. Well, I have so many incredible clients. I do have one that, yeah, I got the contract, so I will have my first deal announced soon, which that'll be really exciting. Um, I am going to be literary agent in residence at a writing retreat in May in Orlando, which is really, really fun with Novel Bound. And I'm also doing an event with Novel Bound on Zoom sometime next April. So look out for that. Yeah. In my writing news, I mean, I started querying and I am like shocked at the interest this book has gotten because my first querying process was not like this. And so I have 13 full requests out from like the last week. It's just blown my mind. And another just like lesson in never self-reject, because there were so many agents in this full request list that I was like, they will never open my email. I see their stats on Query Tracker. They're unresponsive. They respond to like 1% of queries. I'm not going to query them. And then I don't know what came over me, and I was like, I'm just going to do it. And they requested, and I'm like, what is happening? And so I'm very hopeful that this kind of momentum, because I've never felt this momentum before with my novel. I did not feel this with my first novel. I'm hoping that this is going to turn into an offer. And so maybe by the time this will come out, I'll be an agented author. We'll see. But that, I will say, is like my vaguish like writing news. And in the meantime, I think I just have to dive into my new book, because otherwise I'm going to go crazy thinking about this first book.
Valid. Well, Lauren, thank you so much for joining me today. Truly, this has been so fantastic, and it's been fun to kind of hear you talk about all of this, especially as somebody who is such a big fan of your podcast, which I will link in the show notes. Everybody does need to listen. It is one of those great resources, and that you have been interviewing some amazing authors and guests. So I'll definitely have it linked. But thank you so much for just telling your story on both sides. Like, you just show so much resilience and excitement for the journey in both your literary journey and your author journey. And I think that just preaches so much to who you are and the things that you're going to be accomplishing in this field. So I'm excited to be here with you and to be somebody. Just know that I'm always there cheering you on. But thank you again for joining us, and I'm excited for the listeners to get to know you more.
Thank you so much. This was such a fun podcast. I've never really spoken from both perspectives before, and you did an incredible job. I'm just so glad I could share some of this. And thank you so much. I would happily come back again. So thank you.
Okay, but when you get your book deal, you're coming back.
Oh yeah. Put it out there, manifest.
It's happening. So just anticipate me in your DMs again.
Yes.
Like, okay, it's time. Okay.
Can't wait.
Well, thank you again. And I'm going to go ahead and close out the listeners. I'd love for you to stick around for a minute so we can chat off camera. But thank you all for listening, and we will see y'all next Thursday. Bye.